Chat, let's talk about the Bungie situation. Apparently, leaks have been coming out from Bungie Studios. It's time, chat. Wiki wiki. Time to talk about Bungie in Marathon. Let's go. let's take a look, shall we? Let's see what's been happening.
Absolutely everything is going wrong for Marathon.
I have to see, you know, everything's been definitely everything's been going wrong. You got the legal case about the what is it, the red flag, the red caption, the red baron, the red or oasis, I don't know, whatever the name of that freaking whatever that freaking story. And then now you have the copyright issues or so with the marathon thing. Have you seen the Gotcha Destiny game? Gotcha Destiny game? What? I've never heard of a Gotcha Destiny game.
Right now, there is a lot we're going to learn in this video, far more than just the art plagiarism stuff. But what if I told you? Because we live in a world where it's very easy for people to just say, stupid devs, don't know nothing, don't care about the players. What if I told you...
Mister? What is this? Oh, we'll take a look at this in a second. We'll take a look at it at the very end. Is it a... Wait, it's a gotcha game? It's like an actual gotcha? Hey.
That lots of developers inside Bungie have been advocating for Marathon to have substantial PvE elements, but that they were not listened to. Maybe that is the biggest point of this video. It's what happens when an organization basically goes to shit. Now, I'm going to start with two quotes. The first one, morale is in freefall across all departments. The second quote, the vibes have never been worse. Those are what sources telling Paul Tassi say the plagiarism at Bungie has basically left in the vibes of the studio. People are not happy.
So you're telling me they're going at each other's throat over there at Bungie? Like, well, that's definitely not good, to be honest, if that's what's happening over there. If morale is being all over the goddamn place, or a free-for-all, I should say. Yeah, so, yeah, it's Gotcha, and it got Akimbo's. Gotcha version is more creative than the main Destiny.
Now, this reporting follows, of course, in the wake of the truly uncomfortable stream that saw leadership in the game, well, pilloried by the internet as they tried to defend their response to the plagiarism and, of course, the criticism of the game itself. But the sources do suggest that the problems with Marathon run far deeper than any one individual. Plans have been ruined, feedback is actually worse than many people thought, and if I was a betting man, I think I would put my money in this game being delayed. There's another fun thing going on. Vercel's V0 and every no-code tool...
Oh, wow. Advertised. Wow, that's very good advertisement. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, coding. Oh, my. Oh, Lord. Oh, my. I can do programming. I can make my own AI waifu. Wow, that's crazy. Oh, my God. Boot dev. Oh, yeah. Let's go. Anyways.
No risk 30-day money-back guarantee.
Morale has been down. Sony and Bungie are going through the game to make sure there's no stolen work in the game. Oh, really? Sony is now getting involved with the Bungie project.
Supposed to run a stream on May 9th with Marathon game director Joe Ziegler discussing the reaction to the closed alpha. It was then delayed until May 16th. And that delay, well, it really did cue things up in terms of the news cycle. It was very costly. You see, the plagiarism allegations and confirmations happened before that stream. And that meant it was an open question as to whether the stream would even happen. But no, it did happen, and it probably shouldn't have. The stream opened...
Man, honestly, that stream for the Bungie thing was so awful. Like, it was so bad. It was really bad. It shouldn't have not happened, to be honest.
With Ziegler and art director Joseph Cross explaining that they had intended to show a lot more new stuff about Marathon. It seems that they had plans to highlight changes based on alpha feedback, but they, of course, in this stream, showed absolutely no gameplay for the full hour. They couldn't until the plagiarized assets had been reviewed and stripped out of the game. And of course, the big worry is, the more that they show, the more that people could scrutinize. Cross opened by reading from a statement, and this is what it basically said. This was plagiarism by one artist who worked on pre-production in 2020. It was then placed on a decal sheet. That's how Anti-Real's art got there, according to the company statement and what Joe said. Now, that decal sheet was then used in production according to them. It was not caught, but now the review process is being updated across Bungie to stop the problem from happening again.
Oh, you know, don't they like, isn't there like a process or so where they like make sure they check all the art is like not copyrighted or anything like that? I thought there was like a process between from like early productions, concept art, you know, and then like making sure, you know, there's no copyright stuff, and then going into final production or production itself, you know. I still felt dumbfounded that they kicked that one guy because of reading out what a chatter said.
As for fixing the problem, steps in the last 24 hours as of
yeah, I remember.
Stream included reaching out to Anti-Real, auditing all of the unnamed artists' previous work, basically meaning that no new footage can be shown until that is done, then removing anything that is questionably sourced from any asset. He then went on to describe the hundreds of internal and external art.
Hell no, they don't. Got to remember this has happened to Bungie 5 times. Oh, right. I forgot about that. Oh, yeah. I forgot the previous, you know, where they copied other artists too as well.
Artists who have worked in this game over the last 5 years. He emphasized that external partners were not involved in this one, likely because of some early connections being drawn by the public. Cross then offered a personal public apology to Anti-Real to make this right. After all of that then, the stream moved on to dealing with the response to the alpha, and I'll get to that shortly, especially the stuff that is being said by Paul Tassi's sources, because they are quite worrying. But overall, what Cross said here essentially reflects the same position that Bungie took with their first statement, right? There's a little bit more detail here, but nothing major, nothing new, and I'd say that until this audit is complete, we likely won't have any more info on this. The reactions, obviously, were not great. Now, we weren't at Nintendo Stream Chat levels of spamming things, but audiences consistently left absolutely brutal messages, ones that the hosts were clearly reading. You could see it in their faces. Messages, of course, demanding the game is cancelled, and of course, the mimetic plagiarism will make you...
Oh yeah, plagiarism will make me God. Yep, that was the one that we saw the most in that, either they were called art raiders or plagiarism will make me a god. Make me god.
God riffings, Cross especially just, well, facing calls of, you know, being fired. Lots of people saying art raiders, which is of course a little bit of a play on one of their major points of competition. A game called Arc Raiders that, funnily enough, even though it also moved from being PvE to PvP, actually has had very positive buzz recently. Anyway, all of this might have been made worse by the format of the stream itself. You see, Bungie had previously gotten a lot of fan sympathy out of just how low-tech their streams were, that it was just people talking to the camera.
Like, it's not that hard to set up, you know, to set up a streaming thing, you know? Like, for audio check and everything. You should be checking for audio stuff even before the stream, you know? Like, you just kind of do a test with recording, just recording the, you know, recording the audio. You don't even have to stream it.
The late Susan of YouTube would say, it was less polish, more texture. That's generally what people want. It's just that here it absolutely did hit different. It still is a very humanizing way of doing a presentation like this, but in this case, well, they had a far wider audience than they normally would. The situation is altogether much more serious. Expectations were higher. This was all made worse by tech issues. Audio desyncing was a real problem.
Yep.
Discord questions from the public were only fed towards Ziegler, who was clearly the only one who was like planned to be there originally. This then left Joe Cross basically on camera being relayed questions like why Anti-Real isn't being hired just to make use of the assets, and comments doing things like asking why they stole Anti-Real's style. So
Joseph Cross, why were you following the person your former employee stole art from? The mood in the studio must be rough. Is that key on your neck to unlock the fun part of the game? Oh, jeez. use that comment right there. That's a good one. That's funny. That's funny right there. I like this comment right here. It's a Kingdom Hearts Keyblade that he has, but it's pretty funny. Oh, jeez.
So all of this is rough. It added to a deeply miserable environment, one where the most senior leadership in this game couldn't even show the game off. They couldn't really do anything in the way of show, don't tell, because it was just so lo-fi. And that's just the leadership, because where things really get interesting is when we go and see what's happening in the rank and file. Paul Tassie's sources have been quick to describe how things are going inside the studio, and man, it is not a pretty picture. They suggest the internal explanation for the plagiarism is exactly the same as the public one, so no new real information on that. But more importantly, both Sony and Bungie Legal are now investigating the whole situation. And on the ground,
there it is. That's what Dubstep said.
Here. And that's because plagiarism is only one part of the conversation. I think what's potentially more dangerous for them is all of this buzz about the plagiarism means that every little detail is going to be picked up on, more sources will talk, and that's why we now have to talk about Marathon as a video game. I'm going to quote from Paul's reporting. Everyone has the same concerns about what happens to Bungie as a studio if Marathon bombs, which is something they absolutely cannot afford. Sticking with the report, Tassie's sources say that they're not aware of any plans to delay Marathon past its September release date.
What?
That seems kind of insane if you ask me, and it's perhaps because changes were already in place before the plagiarism controversy began. So, as the month of May started, Bungie had, quote, pulled the plug on their planned marketing in order to counter the narrative that had came up in response. Basically, the plagiarism controversy has just simply increased the need to delay things, and they've already delayed and canned some of their marketing. As such, a single public beta in August could now become a, quote, roadmap of public tests, which would likely open up the game long-term to global audiences rather than just the people in the US who have gotten to play it so far. Now,
So basically they're trying to do an early access game, basically.
if we were to assume that May is being written off to rebuild their marketing plan, that means that Bungie and Sony have about 3 months to audit and replace any offending art assets. Meanwhile, of course, they'd also have to relaunch the game's reputation and get it in front of audiences, because the initial reveal that happened this year did not go well. That means this is all shaping up to be quite disastrous, and they're doing all of this.
Well, one of the things is that like the character designs are just not that good. Like honestly, like I'm not really like interested in any of the characters. You know, none of the characters look good. I don't like them. You know.
Of a September release date that is across all major platforms, doing all of this stuff simultaneously, if you ask me, seems completely unfeasible. I mean, even if Marathon was universally hyped, that would still be an ambitious goal, like with your team locked in and motivated. But for Marathon right now, that feels honestly impossible to reach. But the most revealing information from Tassie's sources might actually be about the creation of Marathon, not the release of Marathon. And it might even explain why the gameplay critiques from the alpha aren't actually dealing with the most major complaints, which are things like proximity chat, PvE, solo modes, and loads of other things.
Like what Asmund Gold said before, the reason why they don't do proximity chat is because they don't know how to do sound design very well, because take a look at their live stream, you know? I'm like, that makes sense now. That's making sense.
Essentially, there's a very clear vision for this game, and it was set in stone a long time ago. Marathon was originally pitched by the good old boy higher-ups of Bungie leadership, and as far back as 5 years ago, devs were telling them that it would and wouldn't work, and often were ignored. Many have said previously that it needed to have some sort of PvE component. And I think that last line will really ring true for a lot of you watching this video. It's pretty much been the big thing people have been saying. It's nice to know that, at least internally in the studio, a lot of people seem to have agreed. Now, overall, this is a story we have heard many times before at many different studios. Sometimes a singular vision is about delivering you a Kojima-style experience. Sometimes it's not. And in this story, we know that Marathon's former game director, Christopher Barrett, left Bungie in the middle of 2023 after more than 20 years at the company.
23 years in the company. Okay, top director at Bungie was fired after misconduct investigation. Chris Barrett was fired this spring after he was accused by several female employees of inappropriate behavior, according to the people familiar with the matter. Of course, it's the leadership not understanding the genre. Of course it is. It's always the higher ups. Remember, right? The higher ups don't know the flow of they don't know the flow of the gaming scene. They just kind of like follow trends, you know. And they're always too late on the trend the trend bandwagon. Sorry.
Now, this came after a HR investigation that accused him of inappropriate behavior. He does maintain his innocence, and he sued Bungie for the payout that he was owed for his stocks. But there are certainly some things that he said that do, let's just say, not really look like professional speech. Now, his tenure alone likely would have placed him in that good old boy group that is being talked about by Paul Tassi and I suppose the sources within the company that he's been able to reach. And it would go a long way to explaining the game framework and direction that the team have been left to work on in these past 2 years, which of course is well beyond the game's initially planned launch.
True, extraction shooters are it's a very niche category. I don't understand why they decided to follow this specific genre or trend, you know? Like I don't really see an explosion of, of extraction shooters, you know? For me personally, I'm just not a huge fan of them. I don't know. I just don't find them appealing.
Yeah, Marathon is really late. Remember, this game was greenlit under very, very different financial circumstances. There's a popular belief, right, that Marathon is part of PlayStation's live service push. But the thing is, Bungie was acquired in 2022. Marathon was started in 2019, and 2019 is also when Bungie broke off their publishing arrangement with Activision for Destiny, and they were finally way more independent. Now, we know from Activision leadership that Bungie was consistently having to lean on Activision support studios, High Moon and Vicarious Visions, to deliver expansions and content. Basically, it didn't make Activision enough money. Bungie's stuff was eating into their resources. Then, with Bungie out on their own, they presumably decided to invest in another revenue stream while they could afford it, and that, of course, would be Marathon. Now, this was before Destiny 2's commercial high point with the Witch Queen expansion. When Barrett's departure was reported, IGN also claimed that staff expected, quote, senior company leadership to leave in droves when the 2026 stock vestments clear from the PlayStation acquisition. And that's basically the thing. A lot of them, it seems, are just playing for time until they can escape with a shitload of money. Now, that's the same leadership who dismissed executive pay cuts by saying that Bungie weren't, to quote them, that type of company, because, fuck solidarity with your workers, you don't need morale to make a game, I guess. Ugh. Bungie and Sony then put aside $1.3 billion for staff retention back in 2022, with 2/3 of that expected to be paid out within the first 2 years. That still, of course, does leave hundreds of millions of dollars to vest for an ever-dwindling number of staff. Now, we know that the rank and file of Bungie care about this game, and it seems reasonable to extend that grace to people like Ziegler and Cross as well, right, as the public faces of it. But I think the real question is, do leadership, the highest tier of leadership at Bungie, care about Marathon? Do they even care about the continued existence of Bungie outside of having to only meet their obligations towards PlayStation so they don't get fired, and so that in 2026 their options vest and they become extremely wealthy and, no longer, let's just say, tied to Bungie for their own financial success and security? Certainly, it doesn't feel like they care about the long haul. And remember, this situation has got so bad that PlayStation have taken leadership to task in recent years for overspending and missing deliveries. But not internally. Not like some PlayStation exec saying in an email, you guys are really, really dragging. No, they said this in a public earnings statement. So for the leadership of a business unit to be called out in the quarterly report, like talk, that is absolutely...
Let me see, hold on. Quarter 3's earning announcements, Q&A. I visited at the Bungie studio and had a meeting with the management, and I saw that employees were highly motivated, showing great creativity, as well as an impressive knowledge of live services. However, there was room for improvement with regards to areas such as use of business expenses and assuming accountability for development timelines.
Shocking. It is not a normal thing. So all of that's been going to shit. There have been rounds and rounds of layoffs, and what might shock you is those layoffs likely could have been way worse. I say that because the wider PlayStation group have actually been salvaging incubation projects done at Bungie and support teams that otherwise likely would have been laid off. Marathon's launch has been in the middle of all of this. It feels an awful lot like leadership protecting themselves and setting staff up to take the fall here.
It's always the higher up leaderships that never take the fall. I think in my personal opinion, they need to restructure the entire top part of the tree, you know? All the developers, you know, they're just probably trying to go in, you know, do their job and shit, you know, without any problems whatsoever. But, you know, I think it's the leadership and the management in this department. Well, at least in this situation anyways. They just need to be removed. They got to bring in some new people, clean out the entire house and bring in some new faces. Cause I don't think this is the play personally.
Realistically, as long as they're able to stay until their stuff vests, they will be just fine. And while I'm usually the type to give the benefit of the doubt, and that is something I'll extend to Ziegler and Joe Cross, I mean, it's obvious that Joe Cross hasn't just yanked all of Anti-Real's work. You just have to look at what Joe Cross himself has made as an artist, like say 13 years ago. I'll extend the benefit of the doubt to those guys. But to the top leadership, to the people who are actually making the impactful calls here at Bungie, no longer can I give them the benefit of the doubt. It has been nothing but just fuck up after fuck up after fuck up.
Yeah.
And even their wins, even the wins that team have been able to get under extremely challenging circumstances, well, those have been rewarded with layoffs. It's a bad situation. I don't see this ending well. I think Marathon has absolutely got to be delayed. It just does not seem like they're going to be able to get the ball.
It has to be delayed. It's literally, it's a half-baked game. It's like they're trying to give everybody an early access game and be like, oh, don't worry, you know, we'll add the features that we're talking about because this game is so cold, revolutionary, quotation marks. But it won't have it on launch. It'll have it later. Not at launch, later. So that's, I don't know. This game needs to be delayed 1000%. There's just, it just doesn't look good. It looks terrible. Like, honestly. I don't know. If I worked at Bungie or so, I probably would go find me a different job at this point, or maybe just open up my own studio. You know, take a look at the dev team from Expedition 33. You know, there's a lot of talented people at Ubisoft. You know, a lot of talented artists and game designers over there. But like Ubisoft just doesn't want to do anything with it. So yeah. Then what's the point of buying? Buying what? What do you mean? You need to be a little bit more descriptive on that thing. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, it's just kind of like, just like I feel like I would definitely just move somewhere else or so if I worked at Bungie. But hey, man, we'll see what happens. I know for a fact there's gonna be some layoffs. There's no way there's not gonna be any layoffs, but if I was somebody at Bungie right now, I'd probably go look for a different position from somewhere else. But hey, they have to delay for legal reasons. If the game comes out in stolen art, that's a lawsuit. Yeah, of course. If they don't, well, they have like 3 months or so to basically scrub out all of the art. That's what they said in the video. Apparently, like 3 months they have. I don't know about that, dude. I don't know. They just have to delay it. They have to. They cannot, there's no way they're going to continue giving the release date for this year or at the end of this year anyways. I don't know, man. because they, well, number one, right? Unfortunately, it's the higher ups that decide when it's released. So it's not even the devs, the bottom people, the people that are actually working on the game. They don't get to decide when the game is released. It's the higher ups that get to decide. And unfortunately, they have those quarterly, monthly revenue shit. They have to like meet quota, apparently. That's the problem. So that's why you always get a lot of games that are like kind of like half baked, you know, or not fully cooked in the oven. So I don't know. This is pretty bad. This is really bad, in my personal opinion. But they have to delay it. They have to. There's just no other options. Like, because what happens if there is another piece of artwork in the game that's stolen from someone else? That's gonna be like what Dubstead said. It's gonna be a legal nightmare, you know. Yeah, like, well, it's not even the fourth map. It's like two. It's like, what, they have like, it's two maps. They're like big weird raid PvE thing, and then the ranked thingy. You know, it's just like, then why not delay the game so you can have those features? Because they were like talking about it, right? They were like talking about the game itself. They were like, yeah, these two specific maps and these game modes are going to be the best revolutionary thing. This is what's going to set us apart from the rest of the other extraction shooters. But it's coming out later. It's just like, what? Then why not just delay the game until that content is ready, so it can be shipped with the game itself, and yes, sell it to the people like that, you know? Because this is the quote-unquote revolutionary part of the game, but the revolutionary part isn't coming until later. So it's just like, I just don't understand. But I do understand, but it's just like, come on, man. You like, I like, logical sense there is like, the logical one is just to delay the game, you know? Push it to next year. That's the problem. They don't. Remember, they've announced, remember at, whatchamacallit? What's the name of that studio? Look, what is the name? Bethesda announced the new Elder Scrolls game, right? But how many fucking years has it been? You know, it's just to drive up hype, to drive up, you know, like people who are interested in the game itself, you know. That's the problem with some of these. Even Kingdom Hearts 4 was announced like super early, and it's not even like we just barely got some information about it. But even then, we haven't heard jack shit about the game itself, you know. And it's the same thing with this game. Has it been 6 years? I don't know. It's been a while since I've heard anything about the new Elder Scrolls. And even then, we just recently got the Oblivion remake not even that long ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were working on the that space game. I forgot what the name of that space game is called that they worked on. And then they were probably working on the remaster of Oblivion. Probably that's what they were doing. So Starfield. Thank you. So there probably was a skeleton crew working on the new Elder Scrolls. And then since now they're done with those projects, I think they're going in now. They're pushing the main development team into that project, and now they're probably solely focusing on the new Elder Scrolls. So we'll probably be getting maybe the new Elder Scrolls game probably in the coming years. So I wouldn't be surprised on that, because I know about the development cycle stuff, because I have a friend who like tells me about these development stuff. So that's only the reason why. I don't know. They need to delay this game, like 1000%. Sony needs to. If they do not, like, it's funny because like it's not even Sony Japan, it's Sony America who owns this side of the branch. Sony America needs to delay this game, or else it's gonna be a super financial hit loss for Sony America. When even modders give up on the game. Yeah, the modders actually give up on the game for Starfield. They don't want to mod the game because they find it boring, you know? But if it does fail, if it does really fail and really bombs really badly, because the reason why is because, for those who don't know, there's like an internal civil war within Sony Japan and Sony America. Sony Japan wants Sony America to fail so they can absorb Sony America back into Japan, so that Japan has full control of the Sony, you know, Sony itself for that part. Because unfortunately, for those who know, though, they split up, right? They split up. They gave some power over to Sony America, right? But unfortunately, Sony America has been running rapid and been declining and giving issues to Sony Japan. But yeah, anyways, that's the end of the video. You guys can comment, like, subscribe, do all that fancy jazzy stuff. But yeah, honestly, that's basically, you know, that's basically about it. Sony might be pushing for a release because they want their money badly. But the problem is like, they're going to lose so much money off of this game. In my, you know, I keep saying the same fucking words over and over again. Oh well, anyways, that's the end of the video. Well, if they don't delay it, Marathon is dead on arrival. That's it. Anyways, that's the end of the video. And peace.